Wamukelekile kuhlelo oluthanda kakhulu Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Siza kuni mathupha la ku SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Mina ke mbukeli ngingu-Alisha uNhlanhla intokazi yakajali. Ngithi kuwe mbukeli lolu uhlelo lwenu phela yikho nje ungabambe iqhaza ngokuthi wena ushayele la ucingo ku 011 or 7146919. Ungasithumela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma usithole ku Facebook or Twitter. Sanibonani nonke. Tough economic times have seen many consumers turned into serial bargain hunters. All this in a bid to make the little money left in their pocket go even further. Ironically, this economic decline has created a boom for enterprising second-hand tyre dealers. The high cost of fitting brand-new tyres has driven cash-strapped motorists to the side of the road in search of a cheaper tyre option. But concerned experts ask if buying a used component that is so critical to one's safety, such as a tyre, isn't akin to dicing with danger. Today, we look at some of the risks that could be lurking in this business and how to avoid them.
Elixesha linzima kangaka kwezoqoqosho lixesha abantu abaninzi bangakholwa kakhulu ukulibona selidlulile ngokukhawuleza ukudibana nokungxama. Kodwa ukuba uShedrack Njingi ebekwazi ebeyakuvuya ukuba le meko yoqoqosho ihlale ilolu hlobo ingajiki. Kuba kukula maxesha anjena apho ishishini lakhe lingenisa imali. Oku kusenziwa ngabanini izithuthi abafuna amatayara ngemali ephansi kakhulu.
Shop iyadura phela kufana nathi phela. Like shop maybe uma tower 5 you understand. Thina sakhona maybe bakhulume nami kahle simchipisene.
uShedrack uphila ngokufakela amatayara asele esebenzile. Uthi awakhe aselungele lokufakela kwaye amaxabiso ayafikeleleka. Ukuba bengenjalo ngekudala wasivala isirhoxo.
I see we are doing some amatayara asebenzile. Are they safe?
Yeah, are safe. Angithi kuya like tayara linjani like. Yeah, ngeke kunika umuntu ephelile ngoba mayibhamu ngizo or maybe mayihlanga nesitini izobhamu. Yeah, sinika abantu into eziright.
uShedrack ngomnye wabantu abasebenza ngolomsebenzi ecaleni kwendlela khona ukuze balale betyile.
It's a tire that's in a good condition. All over it's got tread on it.
Ishishini lakhe ngengekho ukuba bengenxa yosomashishini abafana noVillem Durant. uVillem uthenga inhlobo zamatayara asebenzileyo ngenjongo zokuwathengisa. Uthi itayara liyahlolwa kuqala phambi kokuba lithengiswe. Uthi into ephambili uthengisa itayara lisemgangathweni ukusebenza.
A tire, for example, like this, it's been run off on the side where the wire's sticking out already. You can't use. That's an unsafe tire. Once a tire starts looking like that, it's going to give you a blowout. Blowouts occur when you got, for example, it was run off on the side, something punches it. Once it's been punctured, it blows out a hole, and when you continue driving with it, that's the end product, what it looks like. Before you can actually stop. What happened was you got a puncture occurred in a blowout, and a blowout looks like this.
Nangona ukuthengiswa kwamatayara lolu hlobo kungaphikisani nomthetho, ingcali zili kufakela lamatayara kubeka ubomi nokhuseleko esichengeni. Zithi ukhuseleko lwemoto ngelixa ihambayo endleleni luxhomekeke kumgangatho wetayara elo.
Because most of them, they have reached their usage, which means they're not supposed to be on the road. And you find the people that sell second-hand tires, they don't consider things like the expiry date, the trade pattern, the trade depth. They just sell them as you think it's a good tire, but it's not a good tire. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
Kucacile amatayara amatsha ayabiza.
This one ngimthengisele amatayara amasha.
Okay.
Ili tayara lisekunene lineempawu zokugqajuza zizikhonkwane kahlanu. Umnini walo ukuba ukunolisa kuShedrack angafumana elinye nje nge-R300 okanye ngaphantsi. Kodwa ingcali zeliziko zicebise ukuba kungcono kufakelwe elitsha nelixabisa i-R1,300 lilinye. Uyawubona nomahluko ongako. Kodwa ungabeka ubomi bakho esichengeni ngenxa yalo mali? Kwinyanga kaSeptemba eParlamente abasemagunyeni bavakalise inkxalabo ekondeni kwamashishini athengisa la matayala. Iyona nto ingahlali kakuhle yokuba la mashishini awalawulwa aziphethe enza unothanda. Lo nkxalabo inesizathu ukuba uqwalasela inani leengozi ezindleleni nelayanyaniswa negalelo lamatayali. Into ithi amatayala asenokuba abeka ukhuseleko lwendlela nabantu esichengeni. Kuvuyisile Mdoda, Yilungelo Lakho, eGauteng.
Siyabonga kakhulu ngalo mbiko esiwenzele nguvuyisile Mdoda. Manje uqhubeka ngendaba yethu mbukeli, masamukele isivakashi sethu. Sinaye ubud Hedley Judd yona ovele kwi-Retail Motor Industry Organization. Silindele nobuzwe mangu yena ke ovele kwa South African Tyre Manufacturers Conference kanye no Thomas Johannes Ruri yena from the second hand dealers as well as pawn boards. Sizobamela ke mbukeli kodwa ke ngeke sibalinde kuthiwa nomfundisi ulindwa ngeculo. All right Hedley, thank you so much for joining us. A very good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon, Alicia. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Hedley. If you can just explain to us, a lot of people don't know what the Retail Motor Industry Organization does, especially your division. You deal with an important issue we're dealing with today, the Tyre Dealers and Fitment Association.
Yes. Alicia, to put it in a quick summary, the Tyre Dealer and Fitment Association is the representative of the employers' body of all the tyre dealers in the retail motor industry. It's a voluntary membership organisation, and there's a code of conduct to which the members adhere, and we work closely with the likes of MIOSA, the Motor Industry Ombudsman, in controlling and working with the improvement of standards in the fitment and tyre dealer arena. So it's not so much a situation where we control people and we enforce regulations as much as we work with the members to create the scenario and the environment in which provides the better service to the consumer at the end of the day.
So give me an example, Hedley. Say I'm buying a 2014 car. What would have been your responsibility in that whole car?
In a 2014 car, ultimately the tyre dealer is responsible when you bring the car through to them for checking that the tyres are safe, making sure that the vehicle is in a safe condition from a tyre perspective. So, you know, if you look at a 2014 motor car, theoretically the tyres should be well within dates, lifespan, aging of the tyres. They, and we'll talk a little bit more about aging of tyres shortly, but certainly you know, when you start looking at an older motor vehicle from 5 years, 10 years onwards, it's very important to look at the aging of the tyres because it's a critical safety factor of the vehicle.
And you know what I find very funny, Hedley, is that most insurances, motor insurances, don't actually insure the tyres. Why is it a separate entity if it's such an important feature in the car?
I don't actually know the answer to that in great detail. However, there are certainly with certain of the manufacturers and now some of the franchisor operations, they have tyre insurance processes which will replace a tyre that is damaged in use. And
isn't that some of the recommendations that you've put forward as well as the organisation?
I would love to claim the glory and fame for that. However, these are initiatives that have come from the manufacturers themselves and or the franchisors, of whom we work closely with in different forms and manners. All
right, Hedley, let's talk about the insert. You saw very different views. You know, some people are in support of getting used tyres, and that is usually the poor motorists. And of course, the others are saying it's not safe. The first concern for them is the issue of safety. But what about the poor motorists then who don't have a choice but to go that route?
Well, I think in essence, one needs to be very cautious around penny wise and pound foolish. Because when you do a critical analysis of tyre wear rates, remaining tread depth available for use until the tyre becomes illegal, and we need to stress that a tyre becomes illegal when it has less than 1.6 millimetres of tread across the width of the entire tread path and in the entire circumference of the tyre. So if we're down to below 1.6 millimetres, the tyre is no longer safe for use and in fact illegal, and opening the user up to being prosecuted for using that.
But Hedley, how can one tell? You know, there's certain things that you can't really tell, certainly with the naked eye, that, you know, it's 1.5 millilitres or so.
Well, there's the old-fashioned match test, which where one effectively takes a match and you push the match into the tread path, and that gives you an indication that at least there is relatively sufficient tread. The responsible and reputable tyre dealer, if they are in the process of selling used tyres, would certainly not, for the benefit of the consumer, ever offer a tyre with less than 2 millimetres of tread available. And they would, if they were reputable dealers, they would be checking that and measuring it before allowing it to be sold and fitted to a vehicle from a safety perspective. And I can deal with a great deal of the safety issues as we progress through the...
No, definitely. We'll get to look at the tyre, and you can take us through a step by step. But I just want to understand, you know, there's so much regulation concerns around this matter, Hedley, that there's not really a regulator that is in place for the second-hand tyre dealers. Why aren't there, you know, things being done about this?
Well, there is, in fact, currently underway a part-worn tyre process being investigated and discussed with regard to the South African Bureau of Standards with the National Regulator of Compulsory Standards. Those processes are not finalised at this point in time, and I'd rather not preempt any possible outcome there. However, the situation really is that new tyres are regulated in terms of standards and quality standards, and at the moment the part-worn tyres are not under any form of regulation as such, other than the fact that no tyre is allowed on the road in a condition of less than 1.6 millimetres of tread across the path. How
do we look at that as a buyer, as a consumer, Hedley? What are the first things that I should look at when I'm searching for a tyre?
Well, I think Alicia, if I may just redirect slightly and to say that one needs to consider right at the outset whether the purchase of a part-worn tyre is in fact a good deal or a sensible decision to make.
Is it?
No.
Why?
Number of reasons.
Tell us those reasons, Hedley.
And I think, in essence, you know, I'd like to draw the simile or the metaphor, if you will, of tyres being the equivalent of shoes. And in our country, shoes are held in very high esteem.
Yes.
Why are we not holding tyres in high esteem as well? They are the shoes of our vehicles. They are the shoes that travel, that carry us to and from our place of work, to and from our loved ones. And I really think that we should be looking at tyres in that context as being a critical item. It is a safety critical item to the vehicle, and we should look at it with a critical eye.
Absolutely.
Now, that just in a very simple, quick line says gives my feelings around the purchase of tyres. And I think in taking them further, the discussion further, we refer to a comment that comes out of the United Kingdom, where they refer to part worn equals part safe.
Yes.
And why do we buy something that's part safe?
Yes.
So it's when we start going into the safety concerns of used tyres, part worn tyres, it becomes a very very easy decision to make. But the difficult part is understanding whether you should be buying a used tyre or part-worn tyre at all. Because there's a break point at which that value that you spend on that tyre becomes a break-even value for money. Now, cash flow-wise, yes, a new tyre is expensive.
True.
But value for money is still a better deal than a part-worn tyre in most instances because of the wear factor break-even. And if I had to say to you, a tyre with 2 millimetres of tread, 2.1 millimetres of tread, if you are paying anything more than 300 Rand for that tyre, you're actually paying more than what it's worth. Now, there has been some work done with regard to the value of tyres in part-worn form, where in a simple, and trying to just remember the exact figures, a tyre that costs you 2,000 Rand brand new with an expected life of 50,000 kilometres, if you do the mathematical, the arithmetic extrapolation,
yes,
you get to a point where if that tyre is being bought with 2 millimetres of tread for 400 Rand, you would at the outset have been prepared to pay 6,000 Rand for that brand new tyre.
yes.
So that's where the value for money really comes in. Would you pay 6,000 Rand for that tyre new? No, certainly you wouldn't. But you're doing the equivalent at the part worn point. So these are quite important aspects to discuss and to determine whether you are actually getting value for money.
Absolutely.
And this is beyond and before even considering the safety factors and safety initiatives around tyres and their part-worn, part-safe status.
Absolutely, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Absolutely,
Hey, Headley.
yes.
All right. Mbukelo kwamanje basiyibambe lapho sithi shelele ngaseyitolo. Please join us shortly after this ad break. Welcome back. Mbukelo, khumbula ukuthi phela nawe ungabamba iqhaza kwinkulumo yethu ngokuthi ushayele ucingo ku 011 or 7146919. Ungasithumela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma usithole ku Facebook noma ku Twitter ke sixoxa ngama-time mbukeli emoto ke ukuthi mhlambe ungawathenga lapha emgaqweni uwafaka emotweni uyithole mhlambe nawe usuyithola usengozini yemoto mayelana nalawo mathayi. So sikutshela namhlanje ukuthi mhlambe yini ongayenza ukuthi ugade phela i-safety yakho mu driver ngalawo mathayi. Sisamele ezinye izivakashi la e-studio but ngihleli naye uBod Headley yena ovela kwimoto retail motor industry. Now Headley, let's talk about the ongoing safety of tyres. How do I know? Generally, a lot of women are going to be very happy that I'm asking this. We don't check the wear on our tyres. What is the best ways that anybody, including women, can actually do to make sure that their tyres are safe?
Alicia, thank you. I think it's vitally important and it's a message that's crucial that all vehicle owners and drivers understand.
Yes.
And that is that tyre management rests with the owner of the vehicle. And when we refer to tyre management, we're talking about the requirement in terms of continuous balancing, rotation of the tyres on the vehicle, and wheel alignment being performed. And the recommendation from the manufacturers and within the Tyre Dealer and Fitment Association is that within the distance between 8 and 10,000 kilometres, one brings your car in to any tyre dealer for them to check the tyres. Although you should be checking your pressures on a regular basis, they would check them again, ask them to balance your tyre, your wheels, rotate them left to right or front to back as the vehicle requires, and the tyre dealer would determine that for you as a lady driver. And then the wheel alignment, because with the condition of our roads in this country, potholes and also just generally the style of driving that we have, it's crucial that we do wheel alignment on a regular basis. And by doing regular wheel alignment, rotation and balancing, one can extend the lifespan of your tyres
That's what I wanted to know.
By up to 25%.
And that means how many kilometres there?
Well, that depends. You see, unfortunately, and I was having this discussion with a colleague yesterday around the lifespan of a tyre or the expected lifespan of a tyre.
What is it, Headley? Can you really tell, or is it really how you drive that vehicle? I mean, if you're competing with your car at Car Line Me every weekend, surely your tyres are not going to last as long as mine.
Absolutely. No, and it's important to understand that that's a question which has an answer with a cliched answer of how long is a piece of string. And it really rests with the style of driving, the speed of driving, the harshness of braking, the loading of the vehicle, the inflation of the tyres. Are they correctly inflated, underinflated, overinflated? And then also with the vehicle itself. Different vehicles have different power capabilities, and I'm referring here to power, but in essence it's actually torque that comes from the motor that drives through the tyres, and it's the torque that works the hardest on the tyre, and the tread pattern and wear. So again, one has to look at the situation where a performance motor car is required to have as ultimate road holding at very high speeds. So those tyres have a very different structure, a very different compound, a very different tyre altogether to that which you would use in a mini taxi or in a 4x4 vehicle. So there are huge differences in the engineering, and not being a tyre engineer, I have an understanding of it, but I don't know all the ins and outs of it. However, suffice it to say, the answer to the question, how long will my tyres last, is absolutely how long is a piece of string. So if you drive fast, you're cornering hard. You're going to be wearing the tyres. If you drive fast, you generally brake hard, so you're going to be wearing on the tyres. If you drive fast, you accelerate hard, so you, well, hopefully not too often, but you could possibly be wheel spinning. If you wheel spin, you're wearing the tyres. So it's subject to so many things. If you have a vehicle that's supposed to only carry 4 people and you put more than 4 in, you're overloading the vehicle, and it affects tyre wear and tyre life.
Hedley, we've heard a lot of accidents that have been associated to tyre bursts, and we've also seen in the insert that is very, very worrying to know that you can actually go and have your wheel alignment done at a lesser cost to actually expand the expectancy of your tyre. Absolutely. And the tyre dealers, they look forward to going through tyre management with people, yes, and educating as well. Within the Tyre Dealer and Fitment Association of the RMI, we encourage our members to educate as far as they go, and to give a full explanation as to why they recommend the tyres are rotated, recommend why the tyres now need to be changed, and to really assist and be part and parcel of the buying decision with the consumer. Look, Hedley, there's a big new phenomenon, and you know it's a problem. We've got run-flat tyres that are actually, you can patch them up, and it becomes a problem when you've patched it up too many times. But what is the safety guarantee there? Ultimately, from a safety point of view, the tyre manufacturers generally don't like a tyre being puncture repaired. In terms of puncture repairs, the standards that are being worked at is that we will, in the future, officially not allow any sidewall puncture repairs. And if I can demonstrate what I refer to as a sidewall. Go ahead. Go ahead, Hedley. In this particular tyre, which is classically a taxi tyre, and I refer to it as a minibus taxi. Okay. not an Uber taxi. Okay, not an Uber. The tread path area. Is that a new tyre there? This is a brand new tyre. Okay. Off the shelf, brought in just for the demonstration purpose. Okay, so if we stuck a match there, it wouldn't show? No, this will have 8 millimetres of tread as a starting point, which is the general average of all tyres. Okay. So we've got a depth here of 8 millimetres, and if I put my pen into it just for that sake, you can see there's a reasonable degree of distance there. So a part-worn tyre is obviously less than that, and there is a break-even process. So the puncture repair area of the new tyre, of any tyre, really, in all instances, rests between my finger. Okay. Anything outside of that, which would go from where my thumb is around to the side, is not a legal repair. Wow. Okay. So that tyre it's illegal already. It should be taken off the road. It should not be repaired. And we encourage and certainly work with our tyre dealers, members of the Tyre Dealer and Fitment Association, and encourage them to not take part in any repair of a tyre around the sidewall. Whilst I've got the tyre in my hand, I think it's quite important, if we may, just refer to ageing of a tyre. Very quickly. I want to take a caller there, Hedley, very quickly. All right, very quickly. And I'm just looking for it now quickly. It is on this side here. The tyre date on this particular tyre. If you can zoom in onto it here, and you can see there, there's a number 3815. That particular date code is the 38th week of 2015. Wow. That's when this tyre was made. Okay. Okay, so it's a brand new tyre. It's a brand new tyre, definitely. It's still warm. Hedley, leave it there for now. I want to take Masuku from Mpangeni in KZN. Masuku, thank you so much for staying on the line. Sakwamukela umbuzo noma umbono. Yebo. Yebo bhuti wami sekwamukela ohlelweni sicela uthi nje qaba ngombuzo wakho.
Oh cha mina umbuzo wami ngithi awukho mbuzo ngisho ngithi lama tyre abakhuluma ngabathi ama-retreat awamule ngikwanhlobo hayi ukuthi ngizethemba ukuthi mhlawumbe kukhwenta hayi mhlawumbe asiza ukuthi nakuba cha amamukele ngako afani baze afola ngikuthwala lokile bangarecommend awekho yini emgawatshelo right.
All right, siyabonga kakhulu, but Masuku, well, he's saying, Hedley, that you shouldn't recommend the use of second-hand tyres because they're absolutely not safe. All right, it's time for another quick commercial break. Mbukeli, siyabuya khona manje. Sikwamukele futhi Mbukeli manje ke namhlanje sikhuluma ngezinto phela okumele uzinake uma uthenga amasondo emoto asesetshenzisiwe. Sishayele ucingo la studio ku 0117146918 or 7146919. That is. Alternatively, email us your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za. Siyatholakala futhi ku Facebook na ku Twitter. Mosifonela Mbukeli, please remember to switch off your TV set and also keep your questions short. Sizonikeza abanye abantu ithuba masibheke ukuthi nithini lapha ku Facebook. Ulindani Magwengwe says kumele uhulumeni wethu azivale lezi inkampani ngoba ama-owner ama-tax ayazithanda izinto ezishibhile ngeke ngiphinde ngiwathenge bengingazi ubungozi bawo. Well, Hedley, this person is saying that they're so grateful to the show, the fact that they now know the dangers associated with worn-out tires, and he says that he'll never buy a used tire, but the taxi industry seems to, be the famous customer that actually goes to second-hand dealers. Themba Zizijama says, safety is not negotiable. I agree. People must stop risking their lives because of cheaper second-hand tires at Orlando East. Preach that Bible. Themba Zizi Vela Kwetu says, akekho emgangathweni amadala kodwa ke ndiyawathenga mina ngenxa yemali. She says, well, they're not really safe and, on par with the laws, but because of money issues, they don't have a choice. We spoke about this a bit, Hedley. And Kobisa Kim Makinana says, xa kwenziwa njalo ingozi zizokwanda ngeke uhambe i-distance ende ngalamathaya asenexesha ekhona hayi masingabulawa usijongile edutywa. Last but not least, usisithandile Abongile says, by using old tires, that means we're putting our lives into Paris because it's very dangerous and risky because it leads to death. Somehow people say they are using them according to the wages that they have. Back to that question, Hedley. I mean, what is the solution here? I mean, what should our mindset be? Not just that we can't afford.
I think, in essence, probably one of the long-term fixes to this whole thing is the understanding of budgeting within one's personal finances. And as an owner of a motor vehicle, you have to put in fuel.
Yes.
So you budget for fuel. You need to replace tyres. You should budget for them. And budget for the replacement of new tyres and not used part-worn tyres. What probably happens in most instances is there are a lot of other factors that come along during the day, school fees and various other
and you can never know when a tyre is going to burst. Correct. Or, something happens when it happens at that bad time of the month where there's
Absolutely.
No cash.
Absolutely. So if it was possible to budget, and ultimately my recommendation is try and budget for new tyres, work out more or less how long your tyres are going to last, budget towards that, and put a bit of money away every month so that when you do need a new tyre or you need to replace all 4 tyres, it's not a crisis and you're able to withdraw that money and do what you have to do correctly.
What do you make of the people saying that the taxi industry is the one that is most likely the users of the second-hand dealership in terms of tyres? And we've seen a lot of accidents that, we always hear about this, Hedley, that there's an investigation for the cause of the accident. Is this where things like tyre bursts are actually put out there?
Absolutely. And I think I must also stand up a little bit for the taxi industry.
Please do.
And so hopefully they'll like me for what I'm going to say.
They'll appreciate it.
The reality is the taxi industry have improved dramatically in their own management of safety standards over the last few years. They still have some way to go, and we admit that, and I'm sure they do too. The important thing to note with the taxi industry is that, as with any industry, any community has its bad apples.
Yes.
It has the people who don't want to participate in a safety program, who don't want to participate in any form of control system. So you will always have those guys who go the cheap route, buy the worn tyre and underinflate it and wear it out. And I think if I may just to bring a few notes into the discussion at this point, Alicia, is to quote a couple of stats if it's suitable.
Go ahead, let's do the stats.
And I think one of the things that really struck me most significantly is some research done in the United Kingdom recently, where they've had some very harsh attacks on part-worn tyre sales operations. And in one of the legislative attacks, it was deemed that 98% of all part-worn tyres were no longer compliant with the tyre safety regulations. 98%. And that's a statistic that's available on the internet as researched, which is quite remarkable. Now, the question begs, why would that be different here?
Absolutely.
So why would it be different in South Africa if it's that in the UK?
In the UK.
And I think, in essence, we need to look further at what are these compliance issues and what should a part-worn tyre comply with. It needs to comply with structural integrity. That means the actual inner workings, the parts that make up a tyre, the fibres, the belts, the bands, the cording, has to still have structural integrity. If that's been compromised, the tyre is compromised.
Absolutely. Hedley, we'll continue in a moment. I want to take Peter on the line. He's from Everton. Peter, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your question or comment, please, sir.
Yebo, ninjani?
Siyaphila bhuti wami, kunjani? Wathula kangaka?
Ngiyaphila.
Siyaphila bhuti, sibuza umbuzo noma ubeka umbono wena.
Alright, ayikho bengifuna ukuthi ngikuzwisise. Ngisebenza ngamathaya mina, ngi-tyre dealer.
Okay bhuti, usebenza ngamaphi wena, amasha or lawa used?
Ngisebenza ngama-used, ama-second hand.
Okay bhuti.
Yeah, before ngisebenza ngike ngasebenza ekampanini ebi-vulcanizer. La amathaya limele eceleni ama-side cut.
Okay.
Iwa-vulcanizer ibiwathengise ngafunda umsebenzi lapho. So okwamanje ngiyazenzela ngiqashe abantu bondla imndeni yabo nami ngiyondla. Kodwa ke isifiso enginaso ukuthi nami ibhizinisi yami ikhule ngizibone nginebhizinisi enkulu eregistiwe esemthethweni ngicine ngenza into ezingekho emthethweni. So usizo ngalithola kuphi ukuthi ngenze into enjalo.
Okay, but Peter, siyabonga kakhulu ndoda ukuthi at least wena uyazi ukuthi kumele kube safe noma kuthiwa imali yona izodla kancane. Siyabonga kakhulu Nsizwa. Ubuke nje uhlelo, siyabuya manje simbukeli masiphuthume ezitolo ungayindawo. Welcome back, Mbogeli ngihleli lapha no Mr. Hedley Judd ovela kwi-retail motor industry. Indaba esiyidingida namhlanje phela yamasonda sekasebenza kwenye imoto. Yini ekumele uyazi wena mayelana nokuphepha kwalokho? All right, well, Hedley, a very interesting comment coming through just before we went to the ad break. Peter used to work for a tire manufacturing company, and he seems to know his stuff. He says he's opened his own practice, but now his challenge is he wants to register his company. He wants it as legit as possible, even though it's a second-hand tyre dealer. Well,
I think in essence, that's a great call to receive. And,
absolutely.
And the more of that type of call and more of that type of style and attitude towards business and thinking is really welcomed. I think for Peter's first point of departure is to ensure that he's registered as a second-hand goods dealer, which he could do at his local SABC offices at the local station. He can apply for the second-hand goods dealer documents, complete them, fill them in, and submit them. Once he's registered as a second-hand goods dealer, then he's legitimately allowed to trade in second-hand goods of any nature. And that's where that's the first point of departure. And I think thereafter, if he makes contact with you again, he'll be able to get my details, and I'll make an effort to go and see him and work with him to get him into a legitimate and structured legal business.
Amazing. But Peter, uyamuzwa ke uBhoti Hedley la uthi sithinte la e-studio uzoshiya inamba zakhe wena sizokushiyela phela ama details wakhe khona ke nina nizocwaninga udaba lenu nibone ukuthi business yenu iyapi nize nisitshele mayise is successful. Hey Hedley, you're going to tell us about that. All right, but Hedley, is it possible in this used tire dealership industry, Is it possible for those tyres to be refurbished to a better state than they were when actually somebody threw it out to say it's old, I can't use it anymore?
Absolutely not. Cannot.
Okay.
And the reason why is that more than 90% of tyres manufactured for passenger vehicles, in fact, I would go as far as to say 100% of tyres manufactured for passenger vehicles are not regroovable, which means that once they have reached their wear limit,
that's it.
Once you try and cut down into it, and the unscrupulous dealer, which we do know about, sits on the side of the road with a screwdriver and a blowtorch and burns the grooves deeper into the tyre till he goes into the cording of the tyre.
My gosh.
And then paints it black and sells it as a tyre with tread. Now that's, unfortunately, that is despicable in terms of safety concerns. Because that tyre has now been compromised structurally and in every possible way. So we absolutely deplore that kind of activity, and anybody who has knowledge of that should actually take some kind of action around it, because it's just so unsafe. It's claiming lives on our roads. It's pushing up accident rates dramatically.
All right, let's take Robert from KZN very quickly, Hedley. Robert, siyakwamukela ohlelweni bhuti umbuzo noma umbono sesisolvala uhlelo. Robert, siyakwamukela bhuti.
Inkinga ethi ngiyalibuka lesi. Yeah, mama mjanje.
Siyaphila bhuti Robert, sicela wehlisa i-TV set yakho bhuti wami. All right bhuti, qhubeka ke?
Yebo, hayi futhi ngiyayibuka lento oyikhuluma uhlelo kakhulu. Kodwa inkinga yethu manje futhi sibula imali. Ukubona siwala kulamathayi imali esingenayo dadwethu. Khona asize kodwa nje vele siyabuka ukuthi manje ayinkinga vele sidala inkinga kahle kakhulu ngoba kuba nengozi eqhamuka nje mechanic ngwazi ithathi laqhuma manje sibe ukushisa ukuthi mhlambe njengoba kusehlobo nje kanje kodwa nje inkinga yethu imali esingenayo mfowethu manje asize lamathayi kodwa nje anengozi vele sawazi.
Okay, but all right. You know, it's a very interesting point, Hedley, because Robert says that they do know the dangers associated with those tyres, but what drives them there is the lack of money that they do not have to buy those new tyres. But then what should be the mindset? Say they don't have a choice and they have to buy these used tyres. Maybe then they should know that don't use it for 50,000 kilometers. Maybe you must use it for 1 week until you save enough money to actually get a new tyre.
Absolutely, and
as a temporary measure, so to say.
If it's a very short-term temporary measure, and you're not creating an imbalance in the tyre tread pattern across the vehicle. Now, to replace one tyre when you have 3 other tyres on the vehicle is not a safe process.
Yeah.
And because the tyres all have different levels of adherence to the road, and one needs to have a balance across that in the system. So I understand all the fiscal problems that people have. Yeah. But from a safety point of view, we cannot put a cost to safety.
All right. Mbukeli uzwileke now. We cannot put a cost ekuthini niphephe nini emgaqweni. Mbukeli ithi siphinde sijikelele ngaseyitolo. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly after this commercial break. Mbukeli, welcome to our final segment, and that means izingcingo zethu unfortunately sezivaliwe. Sizoqeda maduzane kodwa ithi ngibheka ukuthi nithini lapha ku Facebook babukele. Master M Nogaya says, I always buy the second-hand tyres. If you know how to choose, you can come up with a good quality there. I don't know if Hedley is going to agree to that, but Ntokozo Msezane says, mina ngithi uma kuke kwaba khona umuntu otholakele engozini yemoto nalawo mathaya angalokho ekhala ngohulumeni ngoba phela uwathenge ebona. She's basically saying that if anybody is involved in an accident and they are found to have those worn out tyres, they must not complain to government because they bought those tyres knowingly. All right, Pindi Matiti Makumta says, I think buying new tyres is the best use once they might last, unlike buying second-hand, because you will keep on having to replace one thing instead of using the money for something else. And remember, as a consumer, you have a right to choose and to be well informed about any product you want to buy. Sis Pindi, do you want to take over my job? Like, seriously, siyabonga ngaloko. Ngobile Exira Mbalo says, cheap wona la mathayi kodwa asandisela ingozi ezindleleni. Kwaye kuphela kusifa abantu abangawathengiweyo la mathayi ngenxa yokuthanda izinto cheap. Very interesting. You know, people realize the fact that a lot of accidents are caused by those people with worn tires, and it affects the people that actually spent money on those tires. What do you think about those general comments, Edley, before we go to the statistics and close?
Before we close off, and I think the first one is probably the most amusing one, because when he refers to finding good quality, I think it's important to remember that quality is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
And what is quality? Who determines whether it's quality? He's making a determination. But is he making that determination based on my original early comment of what is his value for money?
Yes. What
is his real value for money? And in going into the final couple of comments around safety, if I look at what one needs to look at, the structural integrity of the tyre I spoke about, I need to talk a little bit about the free of bumps, lumps, bulges in the tyre, and no pliers or cords showing out of the tyre. Those are crucial to the value of the tyre. Now, many of those, and specifically the structural integrity, cannot be seen with the naked eye.
Yes.
Because it's within the tyre itself. And the determination of the quality of that used tyre is something that is very subjective. It's not an objective evaluation. And that's important to bear in mind in the value for money purchase.
All right, so all those run-flat tyres, Hedley, they must really just go and purchase new tyres.
Correct, yes.
Hedley, let's wrap up the show. What do you have for us?
The last one I want to talk about, just very quickly, and going back to the aging of the tyres, it's probably one of the quickest things to check. Have a look at the age of the tyre. Check the mark, see when the tyre was manufactured, and that's straight at face value, an opportunity to see whether you are well within the manufactured safety limits of the tyre from an aging perspective. Aging manifests and shows cause in cracking of the tyre casing under wear. It shows in distortion of the tyre tread path. It shows in vibrations in the vehicle affecting ride quality. And the causes of those factors occurring during the life and the aging of the tyre are caused by heat, of which right now we have the heat wave going on, which
the caller
has
did
an effect.
say, yeah, the caller did say.
UV rays affecting the tyres.
We didn't even know that.
We have huge UV ray factors in Africa. Rain also affects the tyres. And residual chemicals left on roads affect the rubber compounds. They do. It's a fact of life. Salts on roads, salts on the off-road areas. And then the very first and foremost is incorrect storage of the tyre after it's been taken off and before it's used. So those are some of the quick factors that really need to be put into context around whether a tyre has quality or not.
What about brands here, Hedley? Because I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but I drive that VW or whatever make, model car, almost said the manufacturer, and, you know, they come with standard good tyres that are from this brand. Is that the general perception that we should have?
I think, in essence, from the Tyre Dealer and Fitment Association, we recognise that all locally available brands are reputable brands. And they've gone through the homologation process of that tyre. It's met the requirements of the E mark or the DOT mark, which are the standards, the worldwide standards for that new tyre. And I want to just, if I may, a last point.
Go ahead.
The importation of used tyres.
I was about to ask the exact same question. I'm happy.
This is a great problem for us because there are a couple of factors that come into play here. One is that in the overseas sector and market, there is the requirement for snow tyres and there's a requirement for summer tyres.
Wow.
And snow tyres and summer tyres are not suitable for our conditions. We use all-weather tyres in South Africa. And all-weather tyres are designed, the compounds are designed to put up with the different temperature ranges that we have in the country. Snow tyres wear out way too fast. They have a very different, in many instances, snow tyres are limited in the speed that they're able to travel at. Now, a snow tyre and a summer tyre is marked as such.
Wow. I don't even think people realize that,
Correct.
hey, Headley?
So it's, and unfortunately, that's where we fall short in the quality. And again, I go back to my statement around the value for money.
All right, Headley, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you were supposed to have other people here with you, but you've manned the fort, and thank you so much for all your knowledge here on Yilungelo Lakho. Mbukeli Peter, wena sicela usendele i-email noma usifonele khona uzothola iy'namba zika-Headley mayelana naleya business yeni phela nifuna ukuyiphusha. Mbukeli, we have come to the end of today's show. Let me thank my studio guest for making time to be with us today. Ngiphinde ngibonge nani futhi babukeli ngokuthi phela nibe nathi kuze kube manje. Please join us again next week, Friday, for another live consumer affairs discussion. And feel free to email us your views about our program or offer topic suggestions. Yeah, siyalalela from me, Alicia Ntombi Akajali. Till we meet again, ave nisale kahle.